welcome to another edition of Life and Learner Success, brought to you by Top Virtual Staffing Solutions. Thank you for joining us here because we want you guys to continue to grow, learn, and innovate. We would appreciate you guys if you follow us or subscribe to our social media accounts. And if you want to reach out to us, feel free to communicate with this email or number identified here. All right, so we are on our 8th session. And we will do the 7th review from the last session. We'll continue with our quote-unquote time management. And we will discuss inner motivation. And as always, we will connect critical thinking, scientific thinking, growth mindset, and willpower with everything that we're discussing here in one shape or form. All right, so we can skip through these because these are things we've done from before. But we just want to go ahead and share. Today's date is 9/11, and so with that, we just want you to be aware and find ways on how you can support the first responders unit. And even if some of the first responders during 9/11, if they survived it, but it's possible they had long-term health effects because of all the debris and pollution that happened when the Twin Towers collapsed. And right now, with what's going on in Oregon and California with all the wildfires, there's a lot of first responders out there taking care of business. So however you can go ahead and provide support for the first responders, we would appreciate that. And if you want to support these initiatives equally, feel free to go and check our GoFundMe page. And speaking of 9/11, as you guys have known, that travel has changed significantly because of what transpired in 9/11. And right now, with the COVID-19 reality, things are changing or is changing as well. So if you want to learn more about this, we have a virtual town hall session to discuss the future of business and recreational travel. Right. So, Miko, is there anything that you want to address or questions before we proceed?
No.
Okay. All right, so let's review. We discussed about working with time, the first few parts of it, and we discussed effective reading. So, for lifelong learning, these are the questions that we discussed last time, but I would like you to respond to it personally. So is there any question here that you want to address?
No, not right now.
Well, I thought you were going to participate. Remember?
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, time is, well, reading is critical to your success because obviously if you can't read, if you don't know the words, you can't understand. And then time is also critical to your success because if you can't manage yourself in the time that you have, you will most likely not succeed unless you're the person who likes to be down on pressure and is able to complete.
Yes, but generally speaking, that you can imagine that's going to be a very stressful life, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. And you like reading, right?
Yes,
But we have to apply the SQ3R process that we discussed last time, correct?
Yep. Yes.
All right, let's move on to creative. How would you be able to use calendars to your benefit, and how creative can you get with notes and illustrations when you read? So, anything here that you want to discuss a little bit more?
Well, I can use calendars to my benefit, so I know exactly when and maybe even where I'm supposed to go and be at.
Okay.
Or before.
So you are guided.
Yes.
with your activities, with what you're doing on a daily
Yes.
basis. All right. Okay. About analytical, is there any question here that you want to respond to?
Maybe how I will evaluate my time is to have a checklist. So I write down my notes, or not notes, but reminders, and then put a check next to it to show that I've done it. And if I don't have it, a check mark, put an X, and then I have to do double.
Sounds good. And speaking of checklists, that's actually we'll be discussing a little bit more. And obviously, if you are checking things off, then you are evaluating that you're getting things done, right?
Yes.
All right, good. Practical, anything here that you want to apply or have been applying?
Well, I have not been applying either, but maybe I would like to apply effective principles.
Well, you're telling me you haven't been prioritizing your activities on a daily basis?
I just started, so it's kind of a on and off thing.
Okay, but that's what you're working on right now.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, so with critical thinking from our previous discussion, is there anything here that you want to highlight?
I think it would be my perseverance.
Okay.
Because in a test in school, I'm not sure which grade, but I really needed to work because I was super down on time.
Okay.
So I used my perseverance, and I'm not sure, but I think I used these yet thoughts, these type of things that we do at school. I can't do this yet. It's more of a motivating thought. So I can do this. That's what I mean.
Okay. You're talking about the previous school year when you had to persevere because you weren't able to manage your time, correct?
Well,
Or are you
yeah.
talking about right now?
No, not right now.
Okay,
Definitely not.
you're talking about the previous school year.
Previous school year, or
Okay.
yeah.
And that is why it's very important to prioritize things so you're not, again, cramming at the end, correct?
Yes.
And you're allotting the appropriate time to complete whatever tasks you need to do. And that's why you're analyzing. That's why you have that checklist to go ahead and make sure you're covering all bases. Right?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, so higher order thinking, scientific thinking, and metacognition. Is there anything here from the previous discussion that you want to relate to?
I want to apply more of a time statement. So I'll ask myself how much time I have, and then think of what I have to do in that time. And then do first the most important thing. And keep on doing that. Important thing first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, whatever. And then then I really plan my time. If I do it separately, so I do 1 first, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, only parts of it. Or I do halves of it, so I do half of 1, half of 2, half of 3.
That you're concentrating with one task at a time?
Yes.
Based on their priorities?
Yes.
And then at the same time, you don't want to be so inundated of doing just one thing through and through that you want to break things apart a little bit, if you can. All right, good. Wonderful. Great sharing. Okay, so working with time, we have 7 items here. I know we've talked about this a little bit last time, but I'm going to emphasize it. We need to prioritize the activities that we need to do. So we are fully aware that on Fridays, we have these sessions at 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock. So we need to make it a priority that we're fully prepared before the session begins, right?
Yes.
And then on Fridays at 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock, this is the important thing that we're going to do. But any other 5 o'clock or 7 o'clock on any other day may not necessarily be super specific of importance with whatever we're doing at that day and time, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Number 2 and number 3 are almost the same. What this is that, let's look at the general overview. That time equals money. That's why when people ask, hey, how much do you get paid by the hour? That's pretty much the value that you're doing. Whether you like it or not, that's the reality. How much are you getting paid by the hour? So time is money. But the problem with time is that you cannot get it back. If you lose $5, you can go ahead and save up and get that $5. Money, time, you don't save it. Once it's gone, it's gone. Does that make sense?
Yes. Physically.
Yeah, you can't say, oh, I'll save my time in the future. There's no such thing. You are where you are right now. Whatever's done is done. Whatever's going to happen in the future, it hasn't happened yet. There's nothing you can do. Okay? So with number 2 and number 3 is that you audit where your time, or quote unquote money, goes. Because if you're spending a lot of time on nonsense activities, then your results are nonsense.
Nonsense, yeah.
Okay? But if you are spending your time on valuable things, then what are the results that you're going to get? Nonsense or valuable stuff?
Valuable stuff.
Valuable stuff. So it's not only from a materialistic point of view. I mean, think about this. You're a 10-year-old on Fridays committing to go ahead and be a better person, attending the Strength Through Stress and Life and Learner Success. You are committing to this, and this is where your time is going. That hopefully it's worthwhile for you, that hopefully this is something that you can carry on. And if you think it's meaningful and helpful, if you plan to have a kid or kids in the future, this is something that you can impart with them or to your friends or whoever. So at least right now, during these times, we know this is where time is going, and hopefully it's valuable for you. Okay? Number 4, be realistic. I like what you shared earlier. When you mentioned about time, you go ahead and identify how much time you have and what you need to do. We need to find an estimate of how much time am I going to complete task X or task Y, whatever it is. So you need to be realistic how much time I need to complete as such. And then once you complete them, just you've mentioned, you check off the tasks. Okay? And you also mentioned earlier, you focus on one task at a time. So that way your attention, your energy, and your focus is getting that task completed without any interruptions. But speaking of interruptions, you know how life goes. Life is interesting, right? So we need to be flexible with whatever the changes are. Okay? All right. Any questions before we move on to this other set of working with time? You have questions from previous slide?
I don't. No.
You're fine?
Well, yeah. Yeah, I'm fine.
You're good? Okay, wonderful. All right, cool. Let's go ahead and proceed here for the next session. Next slide, I mean. All right, we fight procrastination. We procrastinate. I'm guilty of that when I delay things. for me, my rationale or reason about why I procrastinate is because I'm thinking about what I'm trying to do or what I'm trying to complete. Sometimes it's legitimate. Sometimes I know I'm just delaying it for the sake of delaying it, or because I'm not fully prepared yet, and so on and so forth. So all of us human beings need to fight procrastination. So how do we go about those? For example, for me, I'm a little bit of a perfectionist. I want a perfect product. I want a perfect service. I want a perfect thing. But at the same time, we need to get things done. And so I need to find that balance of getting something done and completing it to the best of my abilities and aim for perfection. But I understand that there will be always areas of improvement. The other thing, in order to fight procrastination, is because of fear of failure. And I'm guilty of that too. Sometimes I'm thinking, well, I'm going to fail anyway, so why even bother? But what I need to go ahead and think is, I need to put in the time, I need to put in the effort so I can produce something. And if I did not produce the results that I want, then hopefully I learn from it and get better the next time around. Does that make sense?
Yes.
But sometimes that's where I'm going to delay because I don't want to fail right now. And in our Strength Through Stress, you mentioned about working with being overwhelmed. And that's what it is. If the task is too big, break it down to parts. And like what you said, focus on one thing at a time. And hopefully you'll be able to complete things accordingly.
Yes.
And ask for help. You have other people who are experts. Why make your life more difficult? Okay.
Or your family.
Yes, anybody that you're dealing with, yes. And the last item here, yes, we need to reward ourselves. So you mentioned...
Sorry.
Go ahead.
The bigger the task, the bigger the reward.
The bigger the reward, you got it. So with the tasks that you check off, that in itself is a reward. You checked off, you completed the task. So you feel fulfilled. You feel content that you were able to produce something, or you're able to learn something.
Something good.
Yes.
Not just something.
Exactly. Something constructive, something productive, something helpful, something beneficial, something positive. Okay? Thank you for qualifying. And that's what it is. We reward ourselves for the work and the effort that we put in. So for example, for you, I know you're media deprived or gadget deprived. But if there are certain things wherein you were able to complete your everyday checklist, then okay, let's watch a movie on a Saturday night. All right?
Wait, what do you mean by media deprived?
Media deprived, that you don't watch TV and you don't watch movies a lot.
Rarely.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's not part of you, that's not a huge part of your life. But we go back. Where do your activities go? Because if you're just watching TV and that's it, and if it's not even meaningful or it's not a documentary that you can learn from.
Or at least related to what you're doing.
Yeah. So I don't want you to be wasting your time. But at the same time, it's okay to have some downtime.
Yes.
So
I just realized.
Go ahead.
It's kind of a bit in figure with the long-term goal.
Mm-hmm.
Your check marks are your short-term goals, and your long-term goal is the movie.
It's a movie, yes.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, speaking of time,
yeah.
You do a write-up with the movies that you've watched.
Yes. Yes.
On that note, yeah, you did the write-up from the last movie already, right? I think we watched Shrek.
Yeah.
You've done a write-up on that?
Done a write-up on Shrek.
Yeah, okay. All right, so that's what it is. So we're tying...
No. I have not done a write-up on Jurassic Park yet.
Oh, Shrek you have done, but Jurassic Park not yet.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. So on that note, speaking of calendar, you're going to put that on a Saturday calendar?
Or maybe even before, if I have the time.
Yeah, you have to do it before...
Or after.
All right. No, do it... Yeah, you can... do it
Well,
do it before.
Technically after. Because
Yeah, after, yeah,
if
exactly.
I did it on Sunday,
Yeah,
that's an after.
maybe that's something we can discuss a little bit more when you put it in your calendar and when you're going to commit to it. Okay? All right. But that's what it is. You need to put your reminder so you would know that you're completing and checking off these tasks. And that's the reward, and that's what it is. We put in the work in, we get rewarded. We put the work in, we get rewarded. Okay?
Yes.
But hopefully, we don't just work because of the rewards that we get. And
Yeah, it's just like this. If you give something to someone else and it's good for them, don't expect something back.
Yes. And that's where the inner motivation will go ahead and come in. So, before we discuss inner motivation specifically, let's discuss motivation. What is motivation anyway? How would you define motivation?
Me?
Yes.
I would define motivation as it's kind of a willpower thing. It's your will to do something. It's kind of a willpower thing.
Oh, willpower. Got it. Go on. Sorry. Say what you shared again.
So it's your will to do something. It's your something that inspires you. How about that?
Oh, you're defining it greatly. I could have not said it any better. And that's what it is, that inspires you. That's where inner motivation will go ahead and come in. So if we look at number 3 here, what do you think is the difference between internal motivation versus external motivation?
Internal motivation is something that comes from you and you only.
Yes.
External motivation is something, like I said earlier, inspired.
Inspired by yourself or inspired by others?
Inspired by others, sorry.
Okay, inspired by others. But why is internal motivation better than external?
Because if you're relying on external motivation all the time, you don't have much willpower either. Not super much. Internal motivation, like in CAP, I think that would result as more creativity.
Yeah, you're very much on target here. Absolutely wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. And that's what it is, like what you said. Let's go back to the definition of motivation. It means to move. And when you move, you go do something. All right.
Yeah.
To break down motivation, it's the root.
Motive.
The root meaning is move. Okay. So, what are you moving because you want to move, or because of other people saying so, or because of other things that's going to happen?
It might not even be a want. It could be a need.
Exactly. And that's something that you decide for yourself. But how do you decide it for yourself? We look at number 2. You multiply value that you place on that activity or action and multiply it with expectation or desired outcome. And that's what motivation is. And the next slide will explain this qualitative equation, if you may. So the desired outcome of your experience. Yes, go ahead.
Sorry, can you go back to the first slide? Yeah, thanks.
Yes.
I realized that you could make an equation out of that.
Which one?
Number 2. So if the value to you equals 6, the expectation, the value times expectation, the expectation is good, so let's mark that as a 9 or 10, then that would be 60. And then 60 divided by the desired outcome.
Oh, it's not a division. It's expectation or desired outcome.
Oh.
Expectation or desired outcome. It's not a division. Yeah, you're right.
Oh,
I should have made a better phrase here. But I like that you can quantify things. Meaning, if I'm going to put a value on this, if I'm going to quantify a value of whatever it is that I'm doing, you rate it from 1 to 10, how important it is. And if you put a value on it,
At least higher than 7.
That you quantify, then you can go back to priorities that, you know what, which one am I going to prioritize first? Because obviously the valuable things will be what you would be concentrating on, that you're putting in your effort. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And I like that idea, that you put in a number in there, 1 to 10. Sure, that's good. Yeah, go ahead.
I thought it was a kind of a mathematical equation, because you literally had the multiplication sign and the division sign and the equal sign.
That's why I identified earlier a qualitative equation. Because normally when you have an equation, it's quantitative, it's numbers. But I like your idea. I like your idea that you've identified that we can put numbers in with a desired outcome or expectation. Is this really, really important to me? What is it for 1 to 10? So if it's 10 times 10 out of 100, your score of motivation of overall 100, then you can identify, is this really worth my time and energy to do whatever? So for example, for me, my value of doing we can just move on to the next slide, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
Okay. So for example, the second one here, this desired outcome or experience. We're completing and working on these life and learner success, or LLS, and strength through stress sessions. This is the desired outcome that I'm working on. The value that I put into it is that I want you to gain the necessary skills to be successful. But of course, I have other values of hopefully this can help out other people out there. And if it can help them out, why not? So we complete these classes. That's my desired outcome. And what's the value for me? And if I'm going to quantify it, maybe I'll put a 9 for completing LLS and STS. It's a 9 for me. But I wanting you to gain the necessary skills to be successful, that's a 10 for me. That's super important for me. That's super valuable for me. That's why we're doing these.
Yeah, because if you can't really complete LLS and STS, you can't care about me that much.
Yeah, exactly. I'll just go and watch TV.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
That's exactly what I don't want.
Yes. So that's what it is. Let's move on to other examples here. The desired outcome is to get good grades. All right. What's that value to you? Well, if you constantly practice good habits to be successful in school, then you will have the same habits when you go to work, when you have a relationship, whatever it is that you're doing.
To me?
Yeah, whatever.
Oh.
You or whoever for that matter. Okay? That you have formed the discipline to be as successful as possible. And you carry on that discipline to other facets of your life.
Mm-hmm.
So, desired experience, excited about learning. Well,
yeah.
Yeah, value here is life evolves. We need to evolve with such changes. As I was sharing with you, speaking of 9/11, when that happened, internet is not something that almost every household has. I mean, there's still a lot of households that don't. But during that time, it's such a special thing just to be connected to an internet.
Really rare.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
But right now, we have multiple computers, laptops, phones, tablets, and so on and so forth, almost connected to the internet. Right?
Yeah.
So as things evolve, as realities evolve, we need to evolve with such changes. So for me, being excited about learning, I'm going to put a value I'll put a quantitative score on it as a 10, because learning is such a critical component. And the value here is as life is evolved, well, if we want to survive and thrive, I'm putting a 10 on it. Go ahead.
Learning You don't really have to put a 10 on it. It literally is a 10 already because you learn stuff every day.
Yes. But
From
that's
the
the thing.
time you're out of your mother's stomach, to the time
Yeah.
you realize that you're gonna die. So
Yeah. Well, okay. I'm not going to focus on the death part, but you're absolutely right. When we are born, we have to go ahead and learn how to breathe. We have to learn how to suckle so we can get sustenance.
And milk.
We have to learn what the smell of your mom is, because she's the one who's taking care of you for the most part, and so on and so forth. You're learning those things. And guess what?
The smell of my mother?
Yeah. You are learning that. And actually, even before you are born, you're already learning things. You are learning how your mom speaks and what's the sound of her voice. And
Actually,
around her.
I've done some research, and 2.5 days after after an average baby has been born, I'm not sure how you describe an average baby, but that's what I saw. I think they would already know to recognize their mother's voice. I'm not sure when I searched it because it might be outdated.
They would know which one again? I'm sorry?
In 2.5 days of living, the babies recognize their mom's voice.
Yes. And then after a few weeks, after a few months, their vision changes, and then now they can see more details of who the mom is, who the dad is, and so on and so forth.
And the pet, maybe.
Yes. So yes, excited about learning. That's a 10. And yeah, and a value there. All right. And then healthy relationships. That's the desired experience. What's the value to that is that we need to be interdependent with one another. We need each other to get better.
And we need to be trustworthy.
We need to be trustworthy. You're absolutely correct with that. Desired experience or desired outcome is to be as healthy as possible. The value here, it's money. If we don't take care of ourselves, we are sick. And if we're sick, then we are just going to spend money just to get better. Does that make sense? So the value here is to be healthy is that we choose the food that we eat properly. We choose, we go ahead and choose to go ahead and work out and exercise. That's why next week we're going to go ahead and commit and doing some other exercises, right? Because we're not biking as much.
Squats, push-ups.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Yes.
Arm circles.
All right. So be healthy because health is wealth. All right. Okay, so let's review. Again, we work with time. We discuss inner motivation, and you fully understand what we're trying to discuss here. I didn't even discuss it. You're the one who discussed it.
Me?
Yeah, you fully understood it. I think I just supported you, that's all. So you fully understand what it is. Let's move on to lifelong learning here. All right. So what's the relationship of lifelong learning and inner motivation? And you can discuss this a little bit more, but I'll explain this a little bit further, is that if you're excited to go ahead and learn, it's coming from within, and that's your motivation to go ahead and wanting to go ahead and learn and be better.
But if you're not, what happens?
Well, then there's no lifelong learning.
Okay.
All right. And we continuously work with time. Why is it important? Because we are given 24 hours a day. If time is money, it's like you are being given $24 a day. Are you going to use $24 a day for nonsense stuff, or are you going to invest it in something that is good? What do you think?
I'll invest in something that's good, of course.
Exactly. You don't want to just waste away money. If you have $24, are you just going to throw it in the trash bin?
Well, I might as well save it, actually.
Exactly. So it's the same thing. If you go ahead and identify time as money, you're not just going to throw it in the trash bin. You want to put it into good use as much as possible.
And save it.
Yes, and save it. But the thing is, the idea,
but money.
Exactly. But yeah, money. But the idea here, the time you cannot save.
Not at all.
It just goes on. So
Physically, no. Mentally, yeah.
that's why we have to be very, very careful with the things that we're doing on our daily basis. Because again, we are being given 24 hours a day, $24 a day. How are we using that? And that's part of the lifelong learning, because as we go through life, we have time in our hands. What are we going to do with it?
Actually, in school in 4th grade, we had this thing called Rock and the Saving Shock.
Okay.
It was a story about two twins.
Mm-hmm.
One liked to keep his area neat, but the other liked to have his area all messed up.
Okay.
But the one that liked to have his area messed up didn't mean that he wasn't really smart or thinking. So when their uncle gave them $1 a day every day, that's $1 first. Second day, 2. Third day, 4. And so on and so on. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's
So
go ahead.
yeah. And then the one who liked his area to be messy, he saved up all his money. But the one who liked to have his area neat did not, and just got $1 a day, spending it on other stuff, which made his really messy.
So I'm glad that your school is incorporating such ideas of how valuable time is, especially if you equate it to money, right?
Yes.
Okay, and even if you are twins, it's what you do with your time.
Yeah.
All right.
Twins most likely don't think alike.
Most likely? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Why make that statement? Do you have, I'm not sure what.
Because twins have different brains.
Oh, okay. That's what you mean by that. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Cool. Let's move on to the cap here, the creative part. How can you be creative with your rewards whenever you complete tasks or goals? So
I can. Oh.
Yeah. Go ahead. You're about to say something.
Do I have to answer this right now?
No. Ideally, you answer next week. But if there's anything that you want to share right now, right away, that's fine.
Nah, it's okay.
All right. So the creative part here is, how are you going to reward yourself? Is it always money? Sure. Or is it something else, such as, okay, maybe you're going to have ice cream, food, or you're going to go ahead and find the time to go ahead and play basketball or do an activity that you really, really love doing.
Reading.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
And are you able to provide different values to an expectation? So technically speaking, that's what you did earlier. You quantified it. But at the same time, if we go back to values here, all right? So for example, completing LLS and STS, I have other values that I can go ahead and say. The other ideas that I have is that, again, hopefully this is something that could help any other individual out there, that these sessions could help somebody else. The other value that I have is that so we can share to the community what TVSS can go ahead and do in terms of tutoring. So those are other values in completing this desired outcome. But for me, the most valuable value is for you to go ahead and gain the necessary skills to be successful as possible. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So how will you be creative in providing different types of values to a specific expectation? Let's move on to the analytical part. Do you do more productive or constructive activities than time wasters? So this is where you audit your time. All right, I spent 5 hours playing video games. And you can identify, I don't know if that's productive. But if you programmed your video game for 4 hours and played your game to debug it and so on and so forth for 1 hour, I guess it's worth it.
So technically 4 hours and 30 minutes.
Yeah, something to that effect. But majority of it is that you're creating instead of just playing video games and that's it. Okay?
You're using your creativity.
Yes. And then you go ahead and analyze. Are your values and expectations legitimate? And indeed, is it worth your time? And I didn't think about it, but you gave that wonderful thought of putting an actual score on it. Are you rating it as a 10? Are you rating it as a 5? Because if it's 1 and 1, then why even spend so much time on it? Okay? So that's the
Well, what if it's not valuable to you, but valuable to someone else?
I don't care about other people.
You don't?
Meaning, you determine what is valuable to you, what is reasonable for you, what is meaningful to you. I cannot impose on somebody else what should be valuable to them. I can influence, but it's really not really my case to make that happen. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And that's where internal motivation will come in. You're the one who's putting in those values. You're the one who's putting in those scores. Not me, not your neighbor, not your mom, not whoever else. It's you putting in that score. Okay? Yeah. That's a good frame or perspective there. Practical. How will you be disciplined to balance your productive daily activities versus recreational time? Because of course, we're not going to work 24 hours a day. We need some downtime, we need some work to do, we need time to eat, we need to do time whatever. So you need to be disciplined, like what we just discussed. If you're going to work on a programming thing, you're not going to play 5 hours of video game. Because again, if you're just playing, then the only thing that I can think of that you are developing is fine motor skills. All right. So again, finding that balance. And are you putting in the time and effort to work on your expected outcomes? Because if your expected outcome or experience is a 10 for you, but if you're not doing anything about it, then you're not going to get anywhere. So if your expected outcome is a 10, all right, your expected outcome is a 10, but the value is 0 because you're not doing anything about it. And your motivation is 0. You're not doing anything. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why from a practical point of view, from what you will actually do, are you putting in the time and effort so that you will get closer to your expected outcomes or experience? Cool?
Yes.
Any questions?
No.
All right, so hopefully we see you guys next time. Strength Through Stress, Fridays 5 p.m. Eastern Time, and Life and Learner Success, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And our workout buddy is now Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. All right, so we'll see you next session. Thank you for joining in. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to us. And we are thankful for all these references and the images if we have some. All right, we're good? All right, see you next week for these sessions.
Thank you for watching, and I hope you found this video informational and educational. Please share our videos and subscribe to our channel. If not, my dad will not give me dessert.